Okay.
Welcome to the many worlds of Mike and Anthony. I'm Mike.
I'm Anthony.
Hey,
Hey,
so we had a technical glitch. We had a false start. I don't know what happened to my end of it. We're back.
it happens from time to time, so you got to give it
Mhm.
to the best and the worst of the streamers. So
All
here we
right.
are. We're back on the show. So I'm glad we made it.
Yeah.
We're only a few minutes off, so it's okay. Hey, it's our
Yeah.
10th episode. To be
It
honest with
is.
you, I don't think we've really had any major issues, with exception of one of our other episodes where you chimed out for just a few minutes. But hey, that's okay. This is what happens. So, but we're glad to be here. It's happy Thursday, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any updates for us?
Well, yeah. So I have to, first and foremost, I know I've kind of made it a little bit of a regular on the past, I don't know, handful of shows to talk about the U.S. soccer team. And yes, unfortunately, we did not make it on to the next round. But I want to say how grateful and happy and proud that I am of our American soccer team. Because I'll be honest with you, they really did come out and play. They showed up very well. It was just, they finally got to a point where they were facing teams that were better than the level that they're at. I mean, let's be real honest here. The United States is not really a top 8 team. They're really not even a top 12, top 15, to be real honest with you, team. And they played a team that is definitely within the top 10. So kudos to the United States team. We actually made it a little further than I think most people expected, to be honest with you. So we did make it to the round of 16. So kudos to them. It was awesome. The tournament's still really great. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Still looking forward to a lot of the other the other games, because we're in the quarterfinals right now, getting ready to get into the semis, and then we'll have the third, fourth place game, and then we'll have the final, which will be awesome. So, but yeah, I think everybody, as far as Americans are concerned, we should be very proud of our team that they showed up and they played very well. So kudos to the U.S. soccer team. So
Yeah.
that'll be the last I talk about soccer, at least on the World Cup front. If there's any other soccer topics later on in our history, we'll see about that. But hey, maybe some other sports will come along. We'll see. So
Yeah.
thanks for giving
Well,
me that.
nice. Yeah. No problem. I enjoy hearing about it.
Yeah.
I'm not as much of of a sports ball nerd as you are, but
Sports ball. I love it. Love it. It
um,
reminds me that there was that movie that the South Park guys made, Basketball. Did you ever watch that movie?
I did. Yeah.
those guys, they're funny. I'll just leave it at that. They're pretty
Yeah.
humorous gentlemen. So
I catch most of the South Park things.
yeah,
Um, all right. So it is our 10th episode,
it is.
and we are going to go back to a very cool movie that did really well in the rest of the world, didn't do quite as well in the United States
Yeah.
as it probably should have.
But I'll say this though, it carried a very famous actor at the time. Bruce Willis is definitely a very, very famous actor. He was definitely famous at this time, during this time. And so, just having him as one of the lead characters really was exciting in a sci-fi epic, in my opinion. I mean, I will use the word epic because this movie had all of the feelings of a really amazing story, a really broad, lore. So that's one thing that got me. This is definitely one of my favorites. This is probably my top 10 of movies from from my upbringing, my youth. So I believe this was 1997. So I was obviously
Yeah, it was.
a
Yeah.
teenager during that time, but a great movie. Loved it. Looking forward to talking a little bit more about it. Once again, for the audience, we're not really we're gonna talk a lot about, I guess, the plot of the movie, but not really so much in a breakdown. We're just going to mention certain segments along the way, but some interesting topics that we found along the way, really watching this movie, and or at least about this movie. So whenever you're ready to jump into it, Mike, I'm ready.
Yeah. So we're not, like Anthony said, we don't do breakdowns in the sense of we're not looking for Easter eggs
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, but we're talking about something about the movie that interests us,
Mm-hmm.
that is just something we want to look more into, and that's the fact that when you look at The Fifth Element, first of all, I agree with you that it's basically second to none when it comes to world building.
Yeah.
So the guy, Luc Besson, which I don't know if I'm saying that right, he's French, but the director who went on to marry the star of the show, Mila
Yeah.
Jovovich.
She was
Some
supermodel. Yeah.
the perks of being a Hollywood director,
Right.
or a French director. But he had been, this was a life's passion for him. He had started writing this story and building the world when he was 16.
Yeah.
And by the time he made the movie, it was a 400-page script. So, kind of what we're looking at today is when you pare down a 400-page script to, I think the shooting script was along the lines of 200 pages, which is still pretty long for a movie.
Yep.
Maybe not much these days, but back then, maybe. You're going to cut a lot of stuff out. And he obviously had a very fleshed out world. And so there are things when you watch this movie that just go completely unanswered.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I still think was okay. It still made the movie, very, easy to follow, not easy to follow, but followable, I guess. If that is a word. I like to make up words from time to time, everybody. That's the scientist in me. Yeah, the movie definitely was something that you could at least follow the storyline. It still made sense, I guess, is what I'm getting at. But I do agree with you. The fact that he started out, I mean, he wrote, all of that out. He basically developed the entire world and then had to cut it down. I kind of look at that as the same as what most movies are to books that they were, produced from,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you have,
right.
and what does everybody say? What's the common line everybody says? They
Oh, the
always
movie's not
say
as good as the book.
the movie's not as good as the book. Exactly. And they're right to some extent for that. I mean, there's a scene in Lord of the Rings that's not there that was in the book that people talk about. And I believe it was the big Gandalf battle with one of the ring wraiths. Like he apparently had one of the Nazgul, like he apparently had an awesome, amazing battle in the book. And they didn't put that in the movie. And I think that disappointed a lot of people. So,
Yeah, and the
which,
Tom Bombadil stuff, and
that's huge. People are upset about
yeah,
that. They
and the
want Tom
stuff in
Bombadil.
at the end of Return of the King, all the stuff that happens back at the Shire when Saruman comes back and tries to take over the Shire because he
Yeah.
lost the rule of the world, so he's going to take over the Shire, which just
Right.
shows you how petty he was. But yeah, all that stuff. But you know what? Um, I've always loved those movies, and I feel
Me
like
too.
that since we can't read the original script, we don't know
Yeah.
what was in there, what wasn't. But I suspect there was a bunch of. I suspect that he knows the answers, the director, and that they were probably in. He'd originally wanted to do a trilogy, but I don't think that this did well enough in the United States to merit that.
Yeah. Yeah, which it's kind of disappointing because I think this would have been awesome to have a trilogy, but I don't know. We don't know what was before this movie and what was after this movie, or if he just took the entire 400 and just condensed it into a movie. I mean, you're
Mhm.
right. We don't know. We don't really know. However, based on some of the conversations that we've had about this film, the things that we're questioning that we're not sure about or know about could
Yeah.
easily at least make one other movie, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and he wrote a book. You know how you can buy those like coffee table books of the making of Star Wars and stuff. Whenever a movie comes out, he did
Yeah.
one of those for The Fifth Element. I happen to have a copy, which I'm glad that I picked it up in the '90s because now it costs like $800 or
Oh
something
my
to buy
gosh.
one. It ranges anywhere from like 400 to $800, and
Awesome.
but in there he said that he scrapped the first 200 pages, is what he said.
Okay, so we know we have that's a whole other movie then,
Yeah, that's a
right?
prequel
Yeah,
basically now. Yeah.
absolutely. Which would be so interesting because that's where a lot of our conversation might go during this stream because those are a lot of the questions that we have, I think, about a lot of origin type stuff. And we don't even necessarily need the origin. I just want to know some more of
Mhm.
the lore, like where they came from and all this stuff and how it was, developed and, all of
Yeah.
that. So I don't know. Let's
Yeah, and
Sure
let me
thing.
just a little technical point here. I have to apologize for my lighting. I had it perfect, and then when we had our technical glitch and came back, now it's really dark all of a sudden. I don't know what happened.
That's all
So
right.
yeah,
I can still see you, Mike.
you can
I
still
might
see.
be washed out. So,
All right, so yeah, we were talking about the fifth element,
yes, sir.
and we're going to talk about the mysteries of the fifth element. What was in that original world that Luke Besson built? Here we have good old Bruce Willis,
Yep.
who's
Corbin
made
Dallas.
a lot of great movies. Yeah, Corbin Dallas. He's made a lot of movies that I love.
Yep.
Um, not the least of which are 12 Monkeys and of course the one where you can talk to ghosts. um,
Sixth
and
Sense.
yeah, the Sixth Sense. I wonder, Fifth Element, Sixth Sense. Do we have in 12 Monkeys? Does he just do movies with numerical?
I
Um,
don't know. Maybe
yeah.
he does.
Then we have Mila Jovovich, this was, I guess, her breakout role. Um,
Yeah, I
he
think
had
so.
he had auditioned, I think, over 200 actresses for this part,
Yeah.
and apparently she just knocked it out of the park when they did the audition for her.
Well,
She must have really knocked it out of the park because he ended up, marrying her.
I,
Um,
I, yeah. I mean, I think she was a model, I believe, if I'm not mistaken,
mhm,
prior to. I don't know if she was
yeah,
Victoria's Secret or supermodel of some sort. However, um, she became one of the biggest video game icon actresses as well in
yeah,
Resident Evil.
for
So, I
sure.
mean, and
Yeah,
she's awesome in those movies. So,
yeah. Well, she gets her first kick-ass fight scene in this movie.
yeah, she does.
Um, and Also, I'll just point out here that she did sort of a progressive pop album back in the late 90s
Which is
that
interesting.
I always thought was really good. I'm a fan of progressive music of all sorts. It definitely was not written from a commercial standpoint. It was kind of like
No.
a labor of love for her, I think. So I recommend that. And then we have
Good,
Gary Oldman, who looks like a young man.
good old Gary Oldman. Wow. Yeah, we're talking Sirius Black here from Harry Potter. Look at how young he looks. It's crazy.
Right? Yeah. And I first got introduced to him in one of the better versions of Dracula, which is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
came out, I forgot the year, around this time maybe.
yeah.
But man, did he play a totally different character between those two movies.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
he played a pretty good bad guy in this movie. Like he wasn't he wasn't the bad guy, but he was a bad guy, and it was good. He had that southern accent, which I thought was just kind of bizarre and out of nowhere.
right.
Yeah.
But
And
this
yeah,
movie breaks all the tropes. Anytime you think something's going to go one way, it's got its own completely original style, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Well, there is a great element of comedy in this film as well. I mean, a lot, and it fit. It was still a sci-fi epic, but it still fit. I mean, well, his name, he's got a southern accent, but his name is Jean Baptiste, isn't it? Jean Baptiste
Right. Yeah.
Zorg.
Uh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
And every time I hear Zorg, I want to think Zork, which was a video game I used to play. But
right.
yeah, I mean, you expect your big baddie villain, or at least the human one, to have the more gravitas, kind of stroke.
Mhm.
And he does kind of have the stroking the cat thing with this weird elephant creature,
He does.
um, but that southern accent and all that are totally not what you expect.
Yeah, a lot of James Bond elements, right? As we talked in
Oh
the
yeah,
formula, James Bond formula. Yeah.
yeah. Luke Besson, or however you should say his name, was obviously a James Bond fan.
Yes.
Um, and so here we have, I think this was a version of the script that was made like for sale after the movie was made.
Very cool.
We start off the movie in ancient Egypt in 2014, I think, or 1914, I think.
1914. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and
1914 and an archaeological dig, of course, because every cool sci-fi film starts off with something, historically, predating the, humans or something. At least we're going to go there.
yeah, yeah. You have basically there's a professor Piccoli, I think it was his name, and he discovers these stones that are in the temple. He discovers, he basically deciphers what's going on here with three worlds that have to align.
Hmm.
That opens up a what he calls a black hole that allows the great evil through, and
Yeah.
that brings us to our first mystery. What is the black hole?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what is it? And it's funny, we look at number three because we did have an episode where we did talk extensively about the TV series, which we're looking forward to more series coming or more seasons coming. The three body problem.
Mm-hmm.
So was
Mm-hmm.
that what created the black hole when these three planets, their gravitational, you know, aligned? So
Yeah. Um, it it obviously, I think, well, I won't say obviously because I had to think about this, but it's not what we would traditionally call a black hole because that concept, it wasn't, well, we think of it as a black hole, wasn't named a black hole until 1967, and
right.
around 1914 and 1915 was when Einstein and some other scientists were working out the mathematics for a black hole,
Yep.
and they weren't even calling it that then. They just, I don't know what Einstein called it, but um, so what was it? Was it a traditional black hole that they just happened to call that for because the scriptwriter, well, the scriptwriter was the director, or was it a wormhole?
Yeah.
Was it a supernatural darkness? Did it have nothing to do with what we would consider traditional physics?
Well, when you're watching the movie, now this is my take on it. When you're watching the movie, it does look like there's some folding of space, and then all of a sudden, this gigantic sphere, this looks like molten rock, just looks like a sinister sphere, comes through. So I'm guessing it was a wormhole of some sort, or it was some sort of a passageway that was created or came about because of this anomaly that happened in our section of the universe, or let's call it a dimension, let's call it a parallel universe. I think there is another universe somewhere where this came from. That's personally where I'm going to go with that. And I think it either knew about something, in our universe, therefore it found the area where it could slip through into our universe, or maybe it would just by happenstance it came through. But the way that the story plays out, it knew about our world and what, or our universe, so to speak, and it because it was coming to destroy it. And that was the big theme. It's like this is pure evil. It doesn't come to consume or take over. It comes to annihilate. That's
And its
that's the purpose.
motive, if we believe the priesthood, is to destroy all life in the universe,
Yes, all existence. Exactly. Yep. So that's
which,
my take on it. Yeah.
yeah, I tend to, that tends to be my take as well. We have not coordinated our takes, by the way, people.
No.
Um, but that's kind of my read as well. And then we have the ship of the Madashawans, um, and I really like this scene. Always thought that was a cool scene. Um,
Yeah. Well, this was neat because they were actually, this was the Monashiwans or Shawans, however you pronounce it, were coming
yeah,
back to Earth because they
yeah.
recognized that there was an issue.
And here's another way I think when we say that this, we don't get the normal tropes. I think that we get a lot of times in movies because usually if you have a scene like this where these big aliens and they're in some sort of armor. I think they're supposed to be cyborgs of some sort from
Yeah.
uh but usually what would happen, I think, in most movies is they would come in and kill everybody except one person who would survive with the knowledge. They don't do that. They basically
Nope.
come in and say, "Hey, we're taking these stones because they're not safe.
Yep.
We'll see you later."
Yeah. Well, and so they allude to the fact that they're friends with the human race. And we find that
Yeah,
out later because they were the ones that worked with the priests to be the guardians of the stones and the fifth element on Earth. Now, this predates even today. So the
yeah,
priesthood's been around forever. The stones have been on Earth, and the fifth element, they've all been there on Earth for that long of a time. And they came back for this specific time period, 1914, for the movie, of course, as we're going to talk about
mhm,
it. But they came back at this time period, from my understanding, because they said that there's a war coming, or there's, war is about to break out or something. The stones aren't safe. I don't know what they mean by that though. Don't know what they
Yeah.
mean. If, because World War I, if we're 1914, World War I was coming and you have it on there, right? So then
Uh,
there's that. Or is there something greater that we just don't know about that they do? So,
well, that's our mystery number two. Why did they arrive right then? Because okay, yeah, they literally say war is coming, the stones aren't safe, but
yeah,
why did they arrive at the exact minute that basically that Professor Piccoli discovers this? And I think that, the priesthood was there to protect the stones and the secret of the stones. Um, and what would have happened? Remember that Piccoli was saying that he's going to be famous.
right.
And he's
Fame and
telling
glory, fame and glory. Yeah.
his assistant, the kid with the 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 thing that was reflecting light. And so what was he
Haziz.
going to do? He was going to take this knowledge and publish it in a scientific paper, and it would have been a huge deal at the time. So this would have gotten out into the popular press, and everybody would have known where the stones were.
Yeah.
And that means any forces that were against the Mandelshamans, or however you say it, they would know where the stones are as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's another good take, Mike. I mean, maybe they were there because they believed that, if the human race, at large knew about this stuff, obviously it's a weapon. What are typical alien movies or supposedly benevolent beings that do visit our planet that aren't from our planet typically want to do, that are more technologically advanced? They want to prevent us from getting a hold of technology or using technology, because if we get too far, we always turn it into a weapon, or we try to use it in a bad way. Not saying that this was the point. I don't think it does as the movie plays out. I'm not saying that was the point, but for some reason they said the stones weren't safe on Earth anymore. Neither was the fifth element. So the 5 pieces were not safe on Earth. They had to get them. They had to take them. And then they said they would be back at the proper time.
And the fifth element at the time looked like this.
Right. And we don't know what that is.
Yeah.
We don't know if the fifth element is inside there and is protected. We don't know if that's just a placeholder. We just don't know.
And the priests, this guy was the priest at the time.
Yes.
It's revealing what he says, because we learn here that these are not priests that worship earth, God, like a Christian God or a Jewish God or a Muhammad or anybody like that. But this is because he calls the Mondoshawians my Lord.
That's right. That was strange too, right?
Yeah. And he even asks their forgiveness before he's going to murder Professor Piccoli with the poisoned water, which the Mondoshawians seem very peaceful. I doubt that they would have sanctioned him murdering the professor.
No. And I don't think they didn't seem like the kind of people that would, or beings that would, make a race of other beings submit to them as,
Yeah.
So maybe it was just a gesture of, or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if they would have wanted the professor dead, they would have just zapped him, right?
Right.
Okay, so I guess my take on it, and I'll get your take away from it. My take is the professor discovered it, and that tripped a signal that sent a signal to them to let them know that, they've discovered the secrets. We need to go take the stones in the fifth element.
Yeah. It's possible. Plausible theory.
Okay. Do you have a different one, or is that?
No. I just think I'm just going with the war. There is something that they know about that is happening, that the stones potentially, if they would get in the wrong hands, or were to get in the wrong hands, or if the entire thing was to get in the wrong hands, I think it would have been detrimental. So kind of aligned with what you were saying, essentially, but yeah.
Well, that's literally what they said. The war's coming. So
Maybe
they
maybe
not
they've always had a maybe they've always had a presence on Earth. Maybe they have some technology that they could monitor Earth, and that's it. I don't know, but
yeah.
that's where I'm going to go with that. So
Okay. Then we go to, and we're not doing every little scene because there are lots of scenes,
oh
but
yeah, yeah, this is the president.
we, in general, we go to the president, and he's being briefed by this guy who used to be the commander of the Bruce Willis, the Corbin Dallas character
Right,
in
right.
special forces of their version of the military.
I love this guy's humor though too in the movie. He was a goofball, you know. He didn't seem like your hardcore 3-star general type guy, you know. He was just like
No,
he was a jokester, you know. And I
again,
kind of
not
yeah,
following the usual tropes of the movie.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then there's the big flaming fireball, which
Yeah,
we don't know
which
what that is exactly.
we don't. We do not know if it is just a big molten ball of evil or if that is a shield around something inside a spaceship. We don't know, but
But they
apparently it is
did
very.
say that it seemed to have intelligence. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I do remember that. And everything that they threw at it that was bad, it absorbed. It increased in size, so it must have
Mhm.
assimilated whatever it was or utilized it for more of its infrastructure or exterior, I should say.
Yeah. Which is
Because they
what which is what Father Vito said. He said, don't. He goes, you're just going to make it stronger.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that is the force that Earth was facing. That is
yes.
all we knew. So that was coming at Earth, and it was essentially going to, I don't know if merge or crash into Earth. We don't know what was going to happen. However, this is what the stones and the fifth element, the four elemental stones and the fifth element, have to try and stop.
And then we have the well manicured man from the X Files is involved here.
We do, we
Um,
do.
John Neville.
Short-lived, short-lived character. Yep.
Yeah, he's the one that he basically disobeyed direct orders
Yeah.
because they told him to get the heck out of there, and he just stayed and kept trying to fight it.
I think he was stuck. I think the sinister evil had some sort of a, because you know how he
Okay.
caused them to bleed a little bit. You know, he did that to Zorg, right?
Yeah.
I think there was some sort of a telepathy or whatever, but it doesn't, kind of defeats the purpose of them doing the telephone call then, because he apparently the enemy can apparently talk on the telephone.
Yeah. We'll get to Mr. Shadow in a little bit. There
Right.
we have Mondashawans.
Yep.
And we pronounce it differently, but so did people in the movie.
So this scene right here, this scene right here moves to at least modern day in their timeline. So this is going to be the
Yeah.
modern day. I think this is around 300 years later or something like
Yeah.
that, if I'm not mistaken. And they were coming back to Earth.
Yeah. All the stuff with the president and the fireball, that's all 300 years in the future
Yep.
after the 2014 setting or
Yeah.
1914. I don't know why I keep saying 2014.
Yeah.
And then we have there's the
So
Mongolors.
yeah, so to our knowledge, real quick on that point, to our knowledge, the Monashewans have done this several times already. They know how this works. They get the stones, they get the fifth element, they stop evil, and then evil goes away for 5,000 years. So in other words, I guess the planets don't align for another 5,000 years. And when they do, evil has a chance to come back and try to, catch us off guard, I guess. So this to me seemed like it was just business as usual. We'll be back. Stones weren't safe for some reason on Earth back in 1914. Still don't know what the reasoning is, but they say we'll be back. They end up coming back, but then there's a problem. And here's the problem.
The Mangalores, possibly the most inept, for hire mercenaries you could
Terrible.
possibly get.
Just terrible.
There's
Yeah,
what
they
they're like.
remind me. They remind me, Mike, and I know where you're going. They remind me of stormtroopers on Star Wars. They're like the most inaccurate, riflemen and all. They're just, except these guys are just dumb. They have no brain.
Yeah.
Very little intelligence.
And this is a scene I clipped the wrong scene because this is supposed to be from much later in the movie, but who cares? He's on the phone. He
Always.
talked to Mr. Finger or somebody named Finger, which is a friend of his who used to be in the military with him, I think. Which
Yeah.
that's a mystery. Who's that guy? And then he talks to the general. He talks to his mom quite a bit.
Who's sassy. She's a sassy lady.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But that's just a part of that comedic element, right? I mean,
yeah,
this is when he finds out that he gets the trip, that he wins the trip,
yeah.
which was
Had I
all
clipped
set
the
up,
right
by the way.
scene, yeah, had I clipped the right scene, this would have been where this at this point in the movie where he was talking to his friend Finger, where he said that he wasn't going to go back to be a starfighter. Which, by the way, I appreciate the fact that they established that he knew how to fly a spaceship before
Right.
they put him in a spaceship later at the end of the
Exactly.
movie. Good
Yep.
foreshadowing, allows me to buy it.
Yep.
That he could fly a spaceship. So he used to be a
Exactly.
starfighter, but he's out of that business now. So this is a one of a trope that they do follow through on, which is the ex-hero who doesn't want to. He's out of the business, and they kind
He's
of have to
retired.
drag him back in. Yeah,
They got to
he's
bring him back
retired.
in.
He's
Yep.
a taxi driver, although he obviously doesn't follow the laws of the time because has all but how many points left? 5 points or something on his driver's license.
And Mike will also have to say there is a driving factor for why he definitely decides to come back, because it's surely not the persuasiveness of his ex-general and all of that stuff,
No,
right?
no, 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 no,
When
no.
he finds out that his cargo that we're about to find out about here in a minute is
Well,
going to
there's his
be
taxi. Then these guys, the Mangalores, shoot down the Monteshawans, and all that's left of the Fifth Element is
right.
this.
Yep. So the Fifth Element was on board. The Monashewans were bringing back the Fifth Element to Earth because the evil had made its presence back in our dimension, our time, our universe. And these bad guys thought that the stones were with that ship because obviously
Mhm.
the stones have to be on Earth. Everything has to be on Earth. For some reason, it takes place on Earth. That's where the evil has to be destroyed. Can't be anywhere else because these stones are called the four elements, right? It's earth, wind, fire, and water, which we only know are present on Earth. So that's why this temple and everything is set up, and that's where the fifth element is. So they obviously know that they're coming back for this reason because they're also in cahoots with Mr. Shadow. They're essentially working for Zorg, who's in cahoots with Mr. Shadow, just to kind of give you a little bit of context around this. So therefore, they know the Monashewans are coming back because the evils, Mr. Shadow told them, "Hey, I'm here. We're ready to do this." And so they find the ship, they attack the ship. The ship gets destroyed, and they go and they're looking for the stones. They
Yeah.
don't. So they
And
they do find a case, right?
yeah, they find an empty case. Like
Yep,
like Zorg gets a hold of an empty case twice in this movie.
he does. Yeah, it's
Like the
funny.
guy cannot track down a case that has anything in it.
So
And
I think, yeah. So I think on that ship, the fifth element was there. Obviously, had the case, like you said. The ship was destroyed, but as we learn in a little bit, and I'm not. We find out it was a ruse. The fifth element was there, but the stones weren't,
yeah,
which is why they got a new
and
case.
and it's holding something. So it's a debate whether it's a lever of some sort or the handle of a case.
It looks like a handle of a case now that we're zoomed in on it. So yeah, I think that's what it is.
And is this the same hand that was part of the sarcophagus, or is this some kind of armor that the Fifth Element was wearing?
See, to me, it looks like armor because obviously there looks like there's some obvious bone structure coming out of it. So, and what do they do here? Since they found, so the bad guys found the case, but our team or the military goes to the planet, which I believe is a moon of Jupiter or on Jupiter. I don't know, wherever it crashed and wherever it was destroyed. And they were like, "Are there any survivors?" And they're like, "No, there's no survivors except one or whatever." And that was it. That was the piece of the survivor. So they brought that back.
Yeah. You make an excellent point, something I hadn't thought about till just now, but you're right, because a sarcophagus is not a suit.
Right.
the person just basically lays in there like a casket, right?
Yep, dormant.
So it might on the exterior have what look like arms, but it it would not you wouldn't fit in it like a glove. There's no reason to.
Nope.
So you're right. I'm convinced now. You convinced me that's armor of some sort. So the Fifth Element was coming back in armor, ready to fight.
Yep.
That's my
Ready to.
take on it.
Yep.
And then, but that's all we have left. They say that they have one cell. Well, if this is bone, they would have millions or billions of cells.
Oh yeah, they have many more
Maybe
cells
they
now.
only need one cell. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But then they do. Here's a precursor to Westworld, as far as I'm concerned,
Yep.
because this is very similar. Spoilers for Westworld, to although this is in literally the opening sequence credits, so not really a spoiler. And if you haven't seen Westworld season one, go watch it immediately because it's made by Jonathan Nolan
Yeah.
and what's her name, Lisa Joy, I think, his wife. It's a Nolan brothers adjacent thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and then which we can do a Westworld analysis sometimes we want, but
Yeah.
then so they regenerate, and they're all shocked that this weapon is a woman.
Yeah. It looks a very fragile,
Yeah,
delicate looking weapon. Yeah. So it's
and then
very
they
surprising.
say that they're worried because they're like, "Is that glass unbreakable?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, nothing to break. It can't
More
be
comedic
shattered."
element. Yeah. More of a comedic
And then
element here.
she breaks through and grabs the general. It's hilarious. I love it.
It's pretty funny.
She gets away. I'm skipping some intercuts with the Bruce Willis character, but I think one of the most iconic scenes in sci-fi here, where
Yes.
we get our first look at the multi-story world. By the way, this predates um, Coruscant in Star Wars.
Right.
So
Right.
all of this traffic in the sky thing, um, very, very much was before we saw that in Star Wars. So I don't know whether Lucas was influenced by that or if they were both influenced by. There was a comic called Valerian, which was then made into a movie later,
Yes.
that
Yes.
had that in it. Maybe they both read that comic book. I don't know.
Valerian was a pretty cool movie. That one we might have to talk about sometime too, because I really enjoyed that one. But yeah.
Another
So, but
movie
that
that didn't make it as didn't wasn't
right.
as big a hit as it probably should have been.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
So
then we have
she
yeah.
crashes in. So and this is how the connection becomes, the rest of the movie here. She
Mm-hmm.
falls into the cab. It's we get through a few jokes, and he's just a frustrated cab driver. He's just tired of getting, he's on down to his last points for driving and all that stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
he has an accident, and all of a sudden he gets a heart to rescue this girl. She's a damsel in distress. That's basically how he sees her. He has no idea that she's a
Mm-hmm.
supreme being,
Yeah,
and
if she
he
tells him
decides,
later, she will protect him.
yep, yep.
And here we have an epic sky car chase through some product placement.
Absolutely.
Um,
Once again, this is the 90s. So as you all know, as we talked in our Batman episode, there is a lot of product placement in a lot of these movies. And McDonald's was huge for this one. Just like Taco Bell remember, was it Demolition Man? I think it was Demolition Man that Taco Bell was massive. So it's fun to see how they were marketing that kind of stuff back. But that was all fun.
well, this guy was scraping together pennies trying to make the movie, so I don't blame him
I don't either.
because it was hard. It was a hard sell with this movie, and the only reason he got it made was that Bruce Willis agreed to be in it because no studio were like, we're not paying for this unless you have an A-list actor because it
Yeah.
was so expensive to make. They got Bruce Willis, but he still was having somewhat trouble funding the movie. So okay, I'm down with it. But I love the fact that they literally have a fairly long scene where they go through a drive-through.
I know. Yeah. And it fit perfectly, It fit perfectly. It was
Yeah,
great.
where the cops are like, I'm on break. I'm
Yeah.
having some fries. Um, but yeah, so they have the epic chase. which again, before Star Wars, before Coruscant, they go find the priest, and then everybody learns. In fact, it was the guy that's not in the David, I think was his name, who first called her the Supreme Being.
Yes.
And so, what does that mean
Yeah.
for Lilu, which we find out is her name, to be the Supreme Being?
Yeah. So as we're finding out when they're reconstructing this being, this is the military, the government, the president, and all of them. When they're constructing this being, they identify the fact that the genetic material associated with this being is far, far beyond human DNA, where we're just the double helix, right? It
Yeah.
was a multiple helical structure with many more codon possibilities. So
There's like
yeah,
5 helices.
yeah, I believe you're right. And it was, so the interconnectivity was, I mean, according to the lore of the movie, it brought strength, it brought intelligence, it brought, I mean, just adaptability, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of power. So that's what made this person such a supreme being.
Yeah.
But the
So, but what
question
does that
is,
mean?
go ahead, Mike.
Oh, does that mean? See, my take on it is that I think there was kind of a French to English translation issue here,
Yeah.
because the guy who wrote it was French or co-wrote it, and the guy who
Uh-huh.
created it, the same guy, was French. In that language, in French, the phrase supreme being could refer to like a perfect biological life form.
Yep.
That when in our parlance, I think in the United States, we might, if we hear supreme being, we think of God. But I don't feel like they treated her or anything that was said about her, if you listen to the dialogue, connotes that she's God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a good
Weapon.
possibility. I didn't detect that as much as you did. So I mean, it's interesting that you honed in on that. I strictly went with supreme being, in the from the eyes or the perspective of humans.
The oh,
Obviously, on multiple levels more
yeah,
powerful than us. So maybe to the humans, yes,
yeah.
but to the Mandashi ones, who I believe are the ones that actually created her, that created the supreme being. I that's my take on it, because we don't know. We don't know if she is a Mondashiwan. We don't know, or we
Mm-hmm.
don't know if she's a part of some genetically modified created being from the Mondashiwans, because they needed that as part of the weapon when they were developing this weapon against evil. Which, how do we even know how they decided to develop a weapon, to defeat the evil? How did they? I don't know. There's just so many unanswered questions about the weapon itself. Like why was it 5 elements that could, that they, earth, wind, fire, and water, and then the supreme being, which basically is the human, is the fifth element, a human, but this person's not human. They're a supreme being. So anyways,
Mm-hmm.
not to go down that road just yet, but that's really where my mind went with this. So
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that your interpretation of earth, air, fire, and water is different than what I'd initially conceptualized, but I like it. So what you're saying is, if we take it literally, earth, not just meaning a substrate, because you can find that on any planet that's made out of rocks,
exactly.
but earth being earth is the
Yes.
only place you could find that particular substrate. So
Yes.
the only place you could do that and have actual Earth is Earth. That
Right.
seems
And
obvious.
well,
But I was thinking of, before you mentioned that, I was thinking of Earth as just being like crumbled up rocks and organic
yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
That's not what you're saying. It
So
has to be Earth.
yeah, and that's, so I think there is a special um point to the planet Earth for this lore, for this mythology,
Yeah.
for this thing to work. I think Earth is a significant, our planet, this planet with life on it, is significant to the weapon, to the way it works. Just a guess. We don't have any other information to believe it is or it isn't, but I'm going with it is, because
Mhm.
this is what we saw, and this is what we're given. So
And I I tend to think along the same. I think along the same lines as you seem to be indicating that she was created by somebody, possibly the Mondoshawan, since they seem to be the one who takes care of her.
Right.
But if if they only started with a one cell or a few cells or whatever, that
Yeah.
means that all of her memories of her language and all the knowledge of the stones, which she knows about without anybody telling her,
She does.
all of that had to be programmed into those cells, every single cell,
Yep.
so that when they reconstitute her, she has, and again, this goes back to last week's conversation about consciousness.
Yeah.
What is consciousness? Obviously, she is a fully fledged person when
Yep.
they bring her back. The only thing she has to do basically is learn about humans.
Yes. Which is another interesting thing to me, because if she, yeah, I mean, she should have known about humans already, though, right? Because this has happened 5,000 years before, right? And the supreme being stays the same, I assume, unless the supreme being regenerates over a time, or I don't know. It's so odd,
Or
right?
maybe they just kept her in the sarcophagus and she didn't come out and they
Yeah,
just,
maybe. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that's it. So she needed to catch up on Earth history for
yeah.
5,000 years, maybe.
But if she needed someone to love her in the previous times, which we'll get to later, I don't know. See, that's why we need a prequel.
Well, and you're right, but maybe because yeah, well, that's when we talk about what the actual fifth element is,
Hmm.
right?
Um,
Because I got a
yeah,
question on that too.
yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah. All right. So I tend to fall down on the side of she was created probably by the Monteshulans
I think
and
so too.
everything programmed in there in a very, we know that they're capable of cybernetics. In other words, combining computers with organic tissue because that's what they were.
Yeah.
And they're cyborgs, which
Yep.
those big turtle like things we saw earlier.
Right.
Then we go to
The bad
oh,
guys.
he. So these, the Mongolors are terrible at their job. They're bad at their job,
They are horrible.
and he doesn't do himself a lot of favors by like murdering a bunch of them.
Right.
When he finds out they deliver him an empty case. um,
Yeah. But he plays on so much of their stupidity, so,
yeah, and then
but he needs them to do the dirty work. So
yeah, I love the fact that we have a whole scene that's also almost very Bond-like, except from the villain standpoint, where he's bringing out all these gadgets, and then he just murders them.
I know, right?
So they don't ever end up using the gadgets he got for 'em. So anyway, I love it. And then we find out that the stones were given to um, this opera singer, Pava Laguna,
Right.
and who we don't know much about her backstory. So I'm
We
assuming
don't.
that was in the other 200 pages.
Yep.
And then the police show up to arrest, um, our main character here.
Yep.
And so Corbin is ready to be arrested. He puts his hands on these yellow circles, which I guess means that you're ready to be arrested. But then they arrest the next door neighbor.
I know.
So the
What did I
police
say?
force is incompetent as well. Um, and then here's the Mangalores attack. There's Father Vito, and he is instrumental in, talking to the president and trying to get the president to understand that it's important
Yes.
to recover the stones and get them together with the fifth element.
With the
And
opera singer, yeah, because the Mondoshawan, just to let everyone know, the
yeah,
Mondoshawan, they realized that the stones and the fifth element together were not safe.
yeah,
So they decided, wisely to split them up, to separate them. So they
yeah,
gave the stones to the Pava Laguna, and then of course the fifth element was being brought back to Earth because they realized that with the fifth element they could pick up the stones, and then they could bring them back to Earth and then save Earth. Of course, that plan was a little bit derailed because of some of the other activity, because of Zorg and all of that. They still ended up having to do the same thing, but it was definitely way more complicated. And we'll talk about
yeah.
that as we move along here.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of hijinks where
Yeah.
the Mangalores apparently can shapeshift, and
Yep.
they try to pretend that they're Corbin to get into the. So basically, what happens is the military rigs a contest to go aboard this pleasure ship, this
Yep.
Paradise pleasure ship. They rig a contest so that Corbin wins it, so that he can um, stealthily, and also is going to take along the fifth element, Lilu, so that they can sneak aboard this ship undetected, basically, and get the stones from Pavel Laguna.
Right. He was
And
expecting
so,
them. Yep.
but there's a lot of hijinks where the Mangalores try to pretend they're him, and then they, I forgot who it was that gets a hold of the next door neighbor who was
Yeah.
arrested by the police, and they try to force him to pretend he's Corbin, but then the real Corbin comes along with Lilu, who has
The multipass.
multipass.
which which is one of the most probably iconic lines, just because I don't know if it's the way that Mila says it or just how much fun she had with it, but it's the multipass.
She is so proud of that multipass.
She is. She loves it. She's
And
like, it's the coolest thing ever. She wants to show everybody, and she does.
she can get into anywhere on that ship with her multipass, and it makes her
Yep.
very happy.
Yep.
And props to Mila Jovovich. They
Yeah.
interviewed, they auditioned, like I think I said earlier, 200
Yeah.
actresses. Okay, the language that she speaks, the ancient language,
Yes.
was a language actually it's a real fake language. So the director, Luc Besson, actually created the language of the ancients,
Right.
fleshed it out. I mean, this is Tolkien level stuff here, and Klingon level stuff. And Mila learned the language for this movie, so she's actually speaking a language she knows when she says all those alien
Which is
words, which
incredible.
is why it sounds so great when she does
Yep.
it, I think.
Yep.
So lots of kudos to her. And
And then
then,
good old Chris Tucker in his prime movie career. They had to have him, but boy, he really was a show.
yeah, I enjoy him. There are some parts of the fan community that kind of hated his character, but
Oh,
I get it, man. I felt like it brought a whole new angle to the movie that you won't find anywhere else.
yep. I do agree. I mean, he provided some more comic relief,
Hmm.
but the kind of the ditzy sidekick, if you want to call it, for just a small portion of the movie. But he
Hmm.
was instrumental in helping. So
Oh
yeah, I thought
yeah,
he was great.
and I remember I saw this in the movie theater, and I got a big kick out of his character at the
Yep.
time. So,
Yep.
then they're taking off from the planet in the kind of the pleasure cruiser, the Floston Paradise.
Yep. This is where Pavel
Um,
Laguna. This is where they were supposed to meet Pavel Laguna
yeah,
and retrieve the stones. And of course, the bad guys knew about it.
yeah. And the bad guys know about it, and we get a phone call
Yep.
from Mr. Shadow to our resident bad guy, um, and this leads us to the fact that the great this Mr. Shadow can use the phone.
Right.
So
This is
is
interesting.
Mr. Shadow the great evil, or does he work for the great evil, or what's going on? So
We
that's
don't
our
know.
next mystery. Who
Yeah.
is Mr. Shadow?
Yeah. And so, I think the great evil is that gigantic sphere that came through the time, the portal, whatever it is. But once again, I don't know if that is a protective barrier. For that there's a ship on the inside. If it's a being itself, it's just a big rock being itself, or if it's a weapon of choice of Mr. Shadow, who is still in that dimension wherever he resides, or maybe is in a ship behind it. I mean, we just don't know. But apparently, Mr. Shadow is some sort of an evil being and can communicate. And the whole idea of Mr. Shadow is he needs to get the stones. He doesn't need the fifth element because The fifth element is how you activate the weapon to
Right.
defeat the evil. But if you don't have the fifth element and you replace the fifth element essentially with something evil, then that is absolutely the most horrible, worst thing that could ever imagine. We wouldn't be in existence anymore. Let's just put it to you
Yeah.
that way. So he just needed the stones. That's why everybody was after the stones.
I think you cracked it, man. I think you cracked it because there's no way that big freaking fireball can sit on top of the altar.
Right. Right.
So Mr.
Yeah.
Shadow is some sort of humanoid, or I guess he doesn't have to be humanoid, but something that can fit on that altar, because that thing surely is not going to do it.
No, it's way too big. That would just consume the planet, destroy the planet. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe
yeah,
Mr. Shadow was traveling in that. That could very well be what it is.
yeah. So whatever was going to happen when that thing hit the planet was, again, another mystery that they don't, because what they did, and kudos to the director for this, is that he cut away everything that did not deliver an emotional storyline.
Yeah.
So you watch this, and I think that's one of the things that led us to want to do this, is that you watch this movie, and I think it feels very complete.
It is. It absolutely is
Yeah,
complete. Yeah.
but there's so many things that they didn't bother to tell us
Which is
that,
fascinating.
had they done it, would have probably been a distraction from the core emotional thrust of the movie.
Yeah. And you were emotionally engaged pretty much the entire time. I mean, in my opinion, you were. You had humor throughout the movie, of course. So you were laughing and giggling during parts where you got a little suspense, where you got some, nervousness. And yeah, it was really, to me, it was good. It was well done.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's very entertaining throughout, and without. So they didn't do a lot of exposition, which
No.
they warn you about with screenwriting. Don't spend a lot of time explaining lots of stuff. There's the old adage, "Don't tell, show."
Right. Right.
Okay, so then we go from that central question of who or
Who
what's
is Mr.
Mr. Shadow. We're back on
Yep.
the ship. Here's the
Yep.
interior of the ship. Just some cool set building, world
Oh yeah.
building that I enjoy. There we get some more hijinks, which I love, from Chris Tucker, who's
Yes.
playing Ruby Rod.
Yeah. So picture Chris Tucker in the action scenes making goofy mistakes, but still helping out, making those goofy
Yeah,
mistakes, right? Oops, I
yeah.
slipped and fell on a gun, and then the gun ended up shooting like through 3 guys or something.
I love
That's the
how
comedic. Yeah.
I love it when he's counting down, when Corbin tells him to count down from 10, and he stays
Yeah.
on 9 for about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
No.
It is funny. 9. I know. He didn't want to go any further. It was so funny.
And then we have, again, one of my favorite scenes, because I love me some opera, and I love.
Yeah.
Now, this was actually filmed in the London Royal Opera House, but who cares?
This is what's so cool about the opera piece, right? When she sings. So, and I thought was fascinating about the movie as well, because you didn't expect this, but so she's singing like normal, very beautiful operatic voice. But then this all of a sudden this techno beat kind of kicks in, and
Yeah,
this little bit more upstream.
right.
And then it's exactly what you would have expected from an alien celebrity or an alien artistic performer, where they incorporated whatever their nature of music and interpretation was. And it was just really cool. It was a really neat scene where her voice was just like all over the place. You could tell it was kind of a synthesizer, but if you're imagining an alien race that from her perspective, she had a unique way of singing. So it was neat.
Yeah, there's a really famous operatic piece called The Queen of the Night that's it's a Mozart piece,
Yeah.
from The Magic Flute. One of my favorite pieces of music of all time, and where they do all these vocal gymnastics, and everybody's heard it, whether you know it or not.
Exactly.
But they're kind of doing a riff on that, but they combine her natural singing with sampling on synthesizers,
It's neat.
where it's some of it's obviously synthesized, which that was a newish thing back in the late 80s and early
Yep.
90s.
Which made
And
it
you
neat.
heard it on the radio, and stuff. Like a good example of that would have been I Can't Wait by New Shoes.
Oh
Remember
yeah.
that song?
Oh yeah.
They use that frequently in there. But if you haven't listened to the soundtrack, this soundtrack is worth listening to, whether or not you've ever seen the movie. It's
Right.
amazing.
It is. Yeah.
It's one of my go-tos. I listen to a lot of soundtracks when I work. I think you do too.
Yeah. We've talked about that. You bet.
Yeah,
They bring me through a lot of days. Yeah.
yeah. Because it just gets me in the mode of being able to focus, plus listening
Yep.
to something I love.
Same here.
So then we go to lots of fighting. So we get Lilu doing a Morpheus before Morpheus did a Morpheus.
That's right.
Yeah. And she kicks some ass, some Mangalore ass.
She does.
And these guys are bad at their job. And again, I go back to my adage that everything's written as either a comedy or a drama, even if it's an action movie like this one is, sci-fi action. I love when she hits the guy from behind, then she goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. She does the Three Stooges thing.
Yeah, she smacks him in the face a couple times and then does a punch back and like knocks one out and then throws the other punch. It's so funny, but it counts. It makes sense.
It worked in the movie. It worked, I gotta say. And then that brings us to our we see here that she can be a protector. In fact, she tells Corbin, "Don't worry, I will protect you." I know she says, "Don't worry," but she says she's going to protect him. Who designed her? We talked about this one kind of already.
Yeah.
And along with a lot of the other slides we were looking at, but
yeah,
I tend to come down with you on this one. I think it was probably the Mondeschals.
I think so too. I think they created her, and it was necessary. It's just the reason why. Like, why did that have to be the weapon, right? Why did it have to be the four elements and then her? What was the reasoning behind that, right?
Yeah, well, I think
and
we'll
then
get
that poses the question, like, what is the fifth element?
Yeah.
So we have earth, wind, fire, and water. What is the fifth element?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So then and we're going to get to that. And then we have the Mangalores again that basically invade the opera house. And then the general that we met earlier, he's basically, going to say, don't worry about it. My guy knows how to calm things down.
Yep. Yeah.
And then he does the opposite of calming things down.
They just, as always, as all action scenes go, they just blow the heck out of this place. It is mass hysteria, panic, evacuation.
And from that book I told you about that I have, so a lot of the stuff in this movie were practical effects, which I love.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The explosion was real in this pleasure ship. And in fact, when they shot it, they were running short on time. And so they kind of rushed the explosion when they did the actual practical effect, to the point where some of the guys who were the stuntmen didn't get out in time. So apparently, and I haven't slowed it down this much, but apparently if you look at it frame by frame, you can see the stunt guys getting blown out from the explosion. They literally didn't get out in time, but the force of the explosion blew them away and they weren't hurt.
Wow. No way. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
We see all the time in action movies where the hero's blown clear of the explosion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it actually happened to some of I think 3 of the stunt guys.
Yikes.
Yeah. But that's good. At least they didn't have to write any letters to families.
Right.
So then
chaos assumes. Yeah. And then of course there's a bomb. There's always a bomb, right?
Yeah. Korg sets a bomb because we have to have a ticking clock. That makes action films more intense if we have a countdown.
Yep.
our hero saves our other hero, heroine, and
And
they get aboard an escape pod.
and I gotta make where did he end up finding Lilu? Right? Just do you remember where he ended up finding her? So Lilu had been in a massive fight, and then all of a sudden she gets herself into the ventilation shaft.
He's in the
Apparently,
ducks, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
in the air duct,
And George is shooting at. Yeah.
right? And she ends up getting hit, whatever. Um, the interesting thing is that I wanted to point out is what is it with Bruce Willis and ventilation shafts? Because
Right?
apparently, think about it. Die Hard. There's the
Yeah.
whole there's the famous ventilation shaft. I'm even gonna go, um, as far as saying there were a couple ventilation shaft scenes in this movie, and I just don't know what it is about Bruce Willis and ventilation shafts in movies. It's just for some reason.
So I'm envisioning back when he was auditioning for parts, where they're like, we got a movie for you. His agent's like,
Right,
we got a movie for you. He's like, okay, two questions. Does it start with a number? Because if it's
right.
not 12 Monkeys or Fifth Element or Sixth, and is there a ventilation shaft? If either of those
Exactly.
things are, I'm not in it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Um,
there you go.
yeah. And so they get into an escape pod or vehicle or whatever. And then
Yeah.
she had only gotten to, when she was learning about the human race, she'd only gotten up to V
Right.
in the alphabet, which I love because, and I don't know if the Friends writers were doing this on purpose, but there's an episode where Penn from Penn and Teller is trying to sell Joey encyclopedias.
Yeah.
And so he gives him one to look at, and it's V. And Joey can only afford one, so he buys it. And now he's trying to start conversations with the rest of them, like, how about we talk about the Vietnam War?
Right. Right.
So both Joey and the Fifth Element have something in common. They only got through V. But she finishes it. She gets all the way through when
Yes.
on the ship, and then
It's disheartening for her though,
yeah,
because she realizes she makes the comment in the movie, towards the very end, why is the human race, why is life worth saving when all you do is you take everything and you use it for bad, or you take everything you're given and you end up destroying it. And that's a pivotal question I think we always have to ask ourselves as humans. Why do we have so many great things, but we end up always destroying it? So
right. And so she's questioning, does the human race deserve saving?
exactly.
We They go to the temple, and I got to tell you, when I first saw this in the movie theater, which
Yep.
I would have been in an undergrad in science at the time, so and I'm fairly picky about science and science fiction,
Sure.
but only to the point of what the director intended. So, in other words, this is not intended to be a hard sci-fi
No.
movie at all.
No.
But so I acknowledge that, and I don't get picky about it. But I was at first, and I didn't end up this way. But at first, I was like, really, we're going to do fire, earth, water, and air. I mean, we haven't thought of those as being the elements since the Middle Ages,
Yeah.
because now we know in chemistry that at the time there was like 125 or something elements known. And I thought, this is really dumb. And then they did the coolest thing, which was they literally made it make sense in the plot,
Yep.
where who was it, David or somebody accidentally blows on one of them, and
Yeah. The
and
priestess
then
sidekick. Yeah.
yeah, and Lilu's trying to tell him. She goes, you
Yeah.
gotta blow, you gotta," but
Earth.
they're not
Earth.
listening to her for some reason.
Yeah.
And then he accidentally blows on it, and then they realize you have to use wind, you have to sprinkle dirt on another stone,
Yeah. You have to
you
use the
have
actual
to yeah, you have to use the actual elements, and you have to light the last one. And of course, they only have one match left because
exactly.
that's
Of
yeah.
course.
And
Suspense, right?
then yeah, so I loved that. I love the fact that they were able to make me, like a diehard scientist,
Yeah.
love the four elements angle.
I did too.
And
And I've always appreciated that throughout the rest of my days thus far. The elements are cool to me. Earth, wind, fire, water, awesome. I mean,
yeah,
there's a great anime or cartoon called Avatar, which dabbles in those elements. They're different benders, they call them, and they can bend to
Mhm.
certain elements. It's awesome. It's great. So, and they're actually, Netflix has a live action TV series. The second season just came out, by the way. So, anyways, I digress on that, but there's something about the four elements which are awesome, I think, for sci-fi and adventure telling. So,
Yeah, the fact they made it work and sold me on it, I was surprised, but it was so
yeah,
cool. And
yeah,
then the fifth element, Lilu's not doing so well, and basically the priest tells her, I think it was the priest tells her, Bilbo
right,
tells her to tell her that he loves her, and he finally gets around to telling her he loves her,
yeah.
and then she is able to channel the energies from the stones
The light of
and
creation, they call it. I
the
think they
light of
call it the light of,
creation
yeah,
and stop the great evil, which, by the way, they said was able to spread life throughout the universe. I should
right.
mention.
Yes.
Um,
Yep. It's the light of creation. So it
so,
is it's the exact opposite of the great evil, right? Of the great
right.
darkness.
So that brings us to our final mystery, number 6. What is the fifth element?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd say that we might have different takes on this. So what's your take on it?
Well, okay. So here's how I look at it. Is the fifth element, it's one or two to me. Is the fifth element Lilu herself? Is it, in other words, is it human nature? Is it human? The human being, I should say, the physical human being, a soul? Or is it love? Is love the actual element? So here's how I look at it. It is human nature, because human nature is life. At least as we know, life, it's a soul that is inside of a human, to me, is what life is. Like, because if we didn't have life, then we wouldn't know about trees and sky and water and all of that other stuff, right? We wouldn't know about earth, wind, fire, and water, right? But because we have life, because we are intelligent beings, or we are, I truly believe that the element is human. But as we all know, the stones all represented an element too, but they were never activated, right? They had to be activated by the actual element. So, leads to my point. I think love was the actual element. He had to, the human had to feel, the soul had to feel loved. In other words, in order to activate the weapon. So I truly believe that it was him telling her that, hey, you're not you're not just this. You are something that someone else recognizes and loves, like appreciates, thinks very highly of. Which, as we know, love is one of the highest forms of. Um, I mean, it's the highest gesture, right? Of that any human can give. I think, in my opinion, you know, we talk about Jesus. He gave his life for us, which is the ultimate sacrifice, because he loved, the human race. Otherwise, why else would you give your life up for the human race? That kind of thing. So I truly believe that it took the human being and the soul, but love was the actual piece that needed to be sprinkled on the stone, so to speak, to activate the weapon. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I think that I would phrase it a little bit differently, but I feel like we come down at basically the same place. I feel like Lilu is the fifth element,
Mm-hmm.
because if it's just love, it wouldn't matter if she's up there or if anybody's up there, as long as they were in love with somebody. So
True. Right.
I think that because she is so integral to this working, that she is the fifth element, but that she has to feel love in order to be activated. So love's the activator,
Right.
and she's activated, and then she has the ability to bring life to the universe, which we don't know what that means.
You
Um, but
Right. You do make a good point. Yeah, I don't think any being could just be up there, right? So it had to
and
be her. It did have to be
and
her, or the
I,
supreme being.
I have a take on this too, a little bit, which is that I think this gets into the idea of something called panspermia.
Okay.
And so panspermia is a scientific hypothesis put forward by Francis Crick,
Yes.
who was one of the two guys who got credit for discovering DNA. They won a Nobel Prize for it, even though they stole most of their research from Rosalind Franklin. That's a whole other story. But but I and just a side note, I met Watson once at a conference, a genetics conference.
Yeah.
Don't meet people most of the time that are your heroes because they will
Right.
most of the
Disappoint
time
you.
let you down. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
All I can say is that um, that night at the conference banquet, his wife came over and sat by me and spent the majority of time trying to apologize for his behavior.
Oh, geez. It's terrible.
But yeah,
Terrible.
so but Crick, that's a whole other thing. Crick came up with this idea of panspermia, which is the idea that there's a alien intelligence that has mastered light speed or warp speed, who
Yeah.
travels around the universe seeding life
Eating.
on
Yep.
any planets that it can take root on.
Yep.
And I feel like there's some of that going on here, that she is part of maybe the Mondoshawians or the panspermia agents who go around
Yeah.
spreading life, and that she is the agent that they've developed to do that.
Could very well be. I mean, that once again, we don't know. We don't know where he was going with this when he was writing this all down, but that could absolutely be a part of the history or the information that predates the movie. So, or the
Yeah.
story that we were told. So I don't know. That's pretty good though. I mean, it's a great, so.
Then we get a James Bond ending where the general shows or the president shows up
Yep.
and his mom calls and he's indisposed at the time.
Yep. That's once again, that's part of that James Bond formula. The hero, or in this case, the heroes end up connecting in the end. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And she's way more than a typical Bond girl. She's a full fledged
oh,
co hero of the
by
movie.
far,
Yeah.
by
In
far. Yeah.
fact,
That's what made,
yeah, go ahead.
that's it. That's what made this movie really cool. Cause it was a dual role. That wasn't just, there's one action hero in this case. It actually took these two together to be the hero together. Right. I mean, he still had
Yeah.
to save the damsel in distress, but she ended up having to save the universe, you know?
And I think it's a good question. And I pondered this as to who is the actual protagonist of the movie. It might be, I think it's both of them,
It has to
actually.
be both. It has to be both. I'm not going to say which one got the most screen time. I assume it's going to be Bruce Willis's character, but I do believe, yeah, I think it took two.
I
It
mean,
took
he
two.
is the very simple. In every story, the hero has to want something
Yes.
because his story is very simple. He wants the perfect woman. That's what he says in his first scene.
Right.
He is coming off a breakup, and of course, his friend tells him there's no such thing as a perfect woman, and then he actually finds the perfect woman.
Right. Well, and then the other piece is, if you think about it, so he had his character arc, right? And we had scenes where he was doing his thing, where he was making his way through this, dealing with the troubles that he was dealing with. But then we also had hers as well. She had some scenes where it was she and the priest that were going to be going off and doing all of this stuff, where, Bruce's character wasn't
I,
even in it. It's just by happenstance, Bruce injects himself into it when he
mhm.
realizes she's going to do this, because he
Yeah,
still thinks, well, I've got to protect her. I've got to protect her because I had to protect her when she fell into my car, not realizing that she was just basically like, she was just born like a few minutes ago. Right.
yeah, yeah.
And so she was still kind of an infantile stage and was just trying to get her bearings around things. But I think that pivotal moment, that pivotal change was when they were in that sleep chamber on the Flossed in Paradise ship, or I'm sorry, the ship leading to the Flossed in Paradise, when he said, I don't remember what he said verbatim, but like, stay out of trouble. I'm here to protect you. And she goes, don't worry about it. I'm Fifth Element. I protect you. And then they go, you need to go to sleep. And then he's like, before he could ask any questions, he's out. So I thought it was kind of neat. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well,
yeah.
I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Another good one. This was fun. I love talking about these movies. As I said, things that we had pivotal in our times growing up as teenagers and, maybe a little bit older,
mhm.
but definitely really cool. And it's neat to see obviously a movie like this today would have been made with a lot more CGI, probably would have been a little bit more crispy. I mean, who knows? But so it is fun that we get to see these movies in the times that we got to live in, and then get to see what we have now, today. It's always
Yeah,
fun to
they
do that.
definitely wouldn't have had the scene today where he kisses her before she gives him permission to.
Oh yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no
But
way
but
that would be in a movie today.
right, but it was so funny. It was comical because that's like a Disneyland, fairy
Yeah, it
tale
was
type
meant to
thing.
be like
It was
kissing to
totally that
wake up
moment.
the princess, but
Yeah,
then, but
it's comical.
she was totally like not without prime permission. In fact, she
It
told
was
him that.
it was perfect. I know that was perfect,
Yeah,
and that was when she uttered the word. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gomet. I believe that was a part. If you go back and listen to it, and funny enough, so you want to talk about an Easter egg? That word is the name of one of the production companies, I think, or the production company that made that movie, Gomet Productions. So thought that was kind of
yeah.
interesting.
And
Kind of,
Todd Laguna was the name of an I think an
yep,
opera house in Europe somewhere. There's
yeah.
lots of little Easter eggs in here. We didn't try to find Easter
No,
eggs
no,
in
no,
this.
no, no, not at all.
But,
I just found it
but
interesting because I've seen the movie so many times. I could pick up on some things.
so if you found some things or have some disagreements with us or some other takes on it,
Yeah.
leave us a message in the comments. I'll sorry about the technical difficulties. I'll get that uh, 2-minute version that has no sound on it
Hey,
taken down and get this one up.
yeah, well, hey, we appreciate everybody's patience. Mike and I are still working through all of this stuff, but I'll tell you what, it's if we have one person watching, Mike and I love to do this, and we'll do that for that one person as long as that one person wants to continue to watch. So we are going to make mistakes. We're going to have little hiccups. That's just a
Mhm.
part of technology, funny enough. And so yeah, but we appreciate it, and yeah, thanks for joining as always. And Mike, I mean, once again, look forward to hanging out with you again next week, and whatever conversation we decide to have.
So say we all.
So say we all. Alrighty, sir. Well, have a good one, man.
Bye bye, man.
See you.